Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I am Bronwyn Slate.
Unfortunately, this week you cannot participate live as our studio is under some construction and you can't call in. So this lesson is pre-recorded, though we are broadcasting on the radio at 91.9 FM and on the television at Bell Express View channel 972. Usually you will be able to join live through the Zoom link or call into the Wahsa studio to ask questions, but for this week, that is not a possibility. Still, how to know how to join the Zoom class with a link when it is available. So you should have a link that's provided from your DEC or from me, your teacher, to join the class. So you just click on that link and then a screen will pop up and you then choose to join with the computer audio. Then you will get a message that says the class will be recorded. So you click got it, as all of our classes are recorded. So I can upload them onto YouTube to share with other students, and so you can refer to them again. I don't expect students to share their videos, so if you do join on Zoom to watch and ask questions, I encourage you not to share your video just so that your privacy is respected. Then on the bottom left hand side of your screen, you can click the video and microphone icons to turn them on or off. You also might have a little headset, which is what my image is, as I'm wearing headsets for the audio. And again, I encourage you to not have your video on. I don't have my video on. It just means that we don't have as much going on the screen and respects folks' privacies. And I ask you to keep yourself muted unless you are asking a question. Then to leave the class, you can click on End, which is at the bottom of the right-hand screen. If you get kicked out, you can rejoin the class. That's fine. If you leave, you can rejoin the class at a later time during the session. That's totally fine. You don't need to actually end if you need to step away from your computer, as you're muted and your video is off, so we won't actually know if you're at the screen or not. So no need to end if you need to step away and return. That is totally fine as well. All right, I just also want to go through how to get subtitles, if that is something that would be useful for you. So if you're in full screen mode for Zoom, you have this menu along the bottom of your screen, and you have an icon that says show captions, like a CC button. You just click on that and captions should then work. If you have captions selected and you prefer not to have captions selected, you can also click, if the captions are showing, then you click, it will say hide captions. So you can click that to hide them, whatever works best for you. Unfortunately, the captions most likely won't get everything that I'm saying exactly. I know I speak quickly, there's lots to jam in, and I might not enunciate as well as the caption settings would like. So I apologize for that if things aren't aligning as best as they could be. If you have your Zoom in a small screen, it looks slightly different. You have to click on these three dots, that the More menu, and then click on Captions. Then the screen will change. A little window, you can then click on Show Captions if you'd like to show captions, or it'll say Hide Captions if you would like to hide the captions. So again, this is going to be depending on what your screen looks like. It'll be a little bit different depending on what your needs are. I'd like to go over the difference between Radio Zoom and IL courses, as this is something that can be kind of confusing. So first, they are the same because the course material, the evaluations, and resources are all the same, whether you are registered in the Radio Zoom class or in the IL course, the independent learning course. Nothing is different in terms of the actual course material and process. Anyone is welcome to listen and participate in the Radio Zoom classes. You don't just have to be registered in the Radio Zoom course. You're still welcome to join us. And all of our lessons are recorded and posted onto YouTube shortly after airing. So this is something that everyone has access to, whether or not which version of the course you were registered in. So then how are they different? The Radio Zoom has a schedule of 4 terms per the year, and the classes run for 9 weeks. So during sessions, I explain the course concepts and show examples working through all 20 lessons, but those are spread out over those 9 weeks, and we start at the beginning and work through up to the whole 20 lessons. The IL courses, on the other hand, are open from the start of the year to the end of the school year, and students are welcome to start and finish those courses at any time, opposed to following along day by day like you can at the Radio Zoom class. So you can finish them any time between September 6th, 2022 and June 16th, 2023 for this year. If you're registered in the Radio Zoom class, the idea is that you are following along and handing material in at the same pace as we're going through week by week, and that you complete your full credit during that 9-week course. There is a potential to roll your course over if you don't finish it within those 9 weeks, but that's something to have a conversation with us directly to figure out what would work best for you. But that's really how they are different. All right, our Radio Zoom schedule is Monday through Thursday from 9 until 10 in the morning. And we are in our first week of our 9-week course. So you know what to work to submit for marking as we go along. The support questions, the ones with a little pencil icon, are not for marking. You can decide which ones and how many to do. If you understand a concept, feel free to skip questions. That is totally fine. You don't have to do them all just because they are there. If you're struggling with concepts and you'd like more practice, please ask for more practice, and I'm happy to send you some. I also can support you working through questions if you need help. Ask questions so I can help you. The key questions, the ones with the little key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So these ones, you need to do all the questions. You need to show all of your work, your steps, your thinking, so that I can understand what it is that you understand. And if you are making errors, I can help figure out where those errors are coming from and hopefully improve your understanding. So then how do you submit your work for marking? Well, there's 3 methods. The first method is to scan and send your work electronically. You can scan your completed work through a device. If you have an Apple device, the Notes app has a scan function, and if you have an Android device, the Google Drive app has a scan function. These are free apps that generally come with these devices, and so are already on them and are fairly straightforward to use. If you need some support learning how to do that, I have videos on my YouTube channel that walk you through step by step how to use both these individual apps. They're under my playlist called the Tech Tutorials, and you can follow there along to learn how to do that. Once you have it scanned, you can then send it either by email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca, or you can send it through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. A quick moment of recognizing why I'm suggesting scanning versus just taking a picture. You can take a picture if that is what works best for you. If that's the only option that you have, that's fine. But if you scan using an app on your phone, it means that it's easier to create one file with all your pages so we don't lose anything. It's faster because it simplifies the image, and that makes it a smaller file, which is easier to send. This is why I encourage scanning, but again, if that doesn't work for you and you need to take pictures, if that's the best way for you to send work electronically, that is okay. If you want to learn how to scan with your smartphone, with your device, I'm happy also to walk you through that and to support you if watching the videos isn't a great option for you, just let me know. I'm happy to support however I can. All right, so our second method is to drop off your work in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our location 74 Front Street. We are the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. So just put your work in there and we'll get it back to you as soon as possible. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students are also welcome to hand in their work by fax if that's something you have access to. We just ask that you give us a call or send me a message to let us know that you have sent a fax, as we've had some instances where things get faxed, but they don't get received. So we want to make sure that we get your work. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name B Slate Wahsa. You can friend me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And then every time I upload one of our Radio Zoom classes videos, you will get a notification so that you know it is there. It's easy to find. As I've said, all of our Radio Zoom classes are recorded and posted to YouTube shortly after broadcasting. So everything is there for you to find as accessible as possible. Also, on my channel, there are short videos that explain common errors and confusing concepts. So this is a really good place to go if you are struggling with something, or if you're feel like you're missing a piece that isn't necessarily a new concept, but is something that you've struggled with in the past. There might be something there on my YouTube channel that addresses this and just makes it a little bit easier to find that help opposed to doing a general online search. Math is a really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the videos. Listening to me only on the radio is not going to give you the full experience, and things most likely will not make as much sense as if you access the videos and see what I am talking about on the screen. If you cannot join me live through Radio Zoom, if you cannot access the YouTube videos, you don't have reliable internet, so those are not options, let me know and I'm happy to send you a copy of all of our recordings so that you still can get the full experience and set yourself up for the most success. If any questions or concerns, please reach out and contact me. My primary focus in my position is to support you, my students. You can send me an email at bronwyn.slate, that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. Connect with me through Facebook, where my name is B Slate Wahsa. B Slate is all one word, second word Wahsa. Give me a call at the office at 807-737-1488 or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Though I teach from 9 until 11, so that's not a great time to try to get a hold of me.
So we are on day 3, lesson 3, which is gross and net pay. So our learning goals for this lesson are that at the end of the lesson, you can say, I can differentiate between and calculate net and gross pay. I can demonstrate an understanding of payroll deductions, and I understand monthly expenses and the beginning of budgeting. Know that you've met your learning goals because 1, you can define gross and net pay. 2, you can explain the most common deductions, which are EI, CPP, and income tax, and calculate your net pay. And 3, you can identify fixed and variable expenses and calculate monthly expenses. All right, let's do some brain activation, some mental math, and get going. So I'm not a believer in mad minutes where you just drill and kill. How we say it, where your students are sitting and in theory learning their arithmetic facts by repetition and memorization. I believe in developing strategies that we can use in different situations and apply our knowledge. I think that is a better use of our brain space and is more functional and successful for many students. So that's how we focus about the practice in this class. So today's question is 6 times 14, and we're going to use the strategy of partial products. So what this means is that we're going to break our numbers into friendly numbers. So I like to do this in what can be called the box method. So where I organize my information. You can use algebra tiles, but I'm not going to go into that today. Maybe we'll do that another day. So here I do 6, and then I'm going to multiply it, but instead of multiplying by 14, I'm going to multiply it by 10 plus 4, because 14 is 10 plus 4. So I'm going to break it into 2 parts that are more accessible for me. So then I do 6 times 10, which is 60, and I do 6 times 4, which is 24. And so now I just need to add those 2 together. So if I add 60 plus 24, I get 84. So 6 times 14 is 84. When I was a young student, I was made to memorize my 1 to 12 times tables, and I was really good at that. But then as soon as I got to 13 or 14, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any strategies, but I can use that information that I know. I know my 10 times tables. I know my 4 times tables. I know my 6 times tables. So I can use all that information in order to do my 14 times tables or my 27 times tables or whatever. So that's, I found to be a really useful strategy. All right, mine's on, let's engage in some prior learning that sets us up for success today. So we need to talk a little bit about the elimination of the penny. So in Canada, I don't even remember what it was. They decided to stop making the penny. It was more expensive to actually print penny, like create pennies, than they were worth. So it didn't make sense to do it anymore. So now when you're using cash in Canada, we don't have pennies. We don't, cents isn't something that we use. If you're using electronic payments, then the penny still exists. We still use cents. So if you're using credit or debit, it still exists. But if you're doing it in cash, it doesn't. So that means that we need to figure out when your bill comes up with something, what does that actually mean that you're going to actually pay in cash? So the total of your bill, so including taxes, fees, everything. So the final amount that you're paying, the actual money that you're paying, if it's $1.01 or $1.02, then you round down. So you round down to $1. If it's $1.03 or $1.04, then you round up to $1.05. If it's $1.06, $1.07, you round down to $1.05. And if it's $1.08, $1.09, then you round up to $1.10. So the options are to have either $1, 105, or 110. Those are, I mean, it doesn't have to be $1. It could be $10 or $15 or $12, whatever, right? But your cents are going to be either a whole dollar, 5 cents, or 10 cents. The same with like 30 cents or 35 cents or 40 cents, right? So anything in your ones column, if it's not 0 or 5, then you're going to be rounding either down or up to 0 and 5. So you just need to remember that as we go through, if we're talking about cash. Remembering that electronic transactions, cents still count. So we're still going to do it, calculate cents. We're still going to round to 2 decimal places. It's only when we're talking about cash that we have to keep this in mind. Otherwise, we're always going to just use the same. A lot of us, personally, I don't carry cash around. I do most of my stuff electronically. So many folks just do things electronically, but definitely some folks don't. Some people still only use cash or use cash majority of the time. So we need to know both, and we need to be able to be comfortable with both. All right, so active learning, let's explore some new concepts and see what we're diving into today. So when will I use this in real life? We are discovering how the world around us makes sense. So understanding your pay is incredibly important. Most of us are working on to some degree, and being able to understand our paychecks are really, really important, so that if something is wrong we can figure it out and we don't get ripped off because mistakes happen and we don't understand what our pay is. So we can't figure out if something's wrong. So it's really empowering to be able to understand the world around you, particularly when it comes to income. Right, so gross and net income, what are they? Gross income, this is on page 17 of your IEL book. So this is the total income earned by an individual. So the total amount of money that you earn is called gross. I have no idea why it's called gross. I probably should look that up. I didn't. But that's what it is. Your gross is your total income. It could be your yearly salary. So for example, Bethany makes $35,000 a year. That would be gross. When someone says that they make this much money a year, they're talking about their gross income generally. It could be based on your hourly wage. So Jonas earns $17.25 per hour for $35 a week, 50 weeks a year. That is knowing your hourly wage. Again, that is your gross income. That is the total amount. That's what we're calculating, like we did in our last lesson, to figure out how much you're making overall. So your paycheck will always state your gross income. It'll always tell you how much you are making in total, but this isn't actually how much money you get. So that can be confusing. Bethany doesn't actually take home $35,000 a year. That is her gross income, but that's not what is going to be ending up. If she didn't spend any of her money, she wouldn't end up having $35,000 in her bank at the end of the year. So this one would come to net income, and net income is also on page 17 of your IEL book. And this is the income that you actually take home. This is the money that you actually get. So your net income is found by doing your gross income, subtracting deductions, and that's equal to your net income. So what are deductions? What am I talking about? So your employer takes money off of your earnings to pay for various services and social protection plans. So common deductions are every employee has to pay income tax, Canada pension plan, and employment insurance. So if you're working at a legal situation, you're paying these things. Some workplaces also have other deductions. So you might have a company pension plan that you pay into. So as a teacher, my company pays into a pension plan. I pay into a pension plan in order to set me up for success as when I retire. We also pay into life, health, and dental insurance. So that also is deducted from your gross income. And union dues or other dues like that are deductions that you may or may not have depending on your industry and your employer. So let's look into those deductions a little bit more to understand really what's actually going on. We're going to look at the standard deductions, the ones that everybody has to pay, and why we have to pay those. So first, EI, employment insurance. So employment insurance provides temporary income support if you're unemployed while you're looking for employment or to upgrade your skills. So if you are doing education, you're in school and you're upgrading your skills, you might be eligible for EI to pay for your general life, all of your expenses. But so we all pay into EI so that when we need that there's this pot of money that we can all access if we've been paying into EI. So you need to have accumulated 420 hours of insurable employment during the qualified period. So for the year or so, they have a bunch of rules, you need to look into it, but you have to have a certain amount of time that you've been working. And in 2021, for every $100 earned, workers contribute $1.58 up to a defined maximum of $889.54. So if everybody pays $1.58 for every $100 that they earn, and then once they hit $889.54, then they stop. Then you don't pay anymore. So that's the most that we pay every year. The employer also matches it. The employer pays the same amount that you pay every year. So we all contribute into this pot of money so that if any of us are experiencing unemployment, that we have that support. So it supports us socially as a collective. Then Canada Pension Plan, CPP, is a monthly taxable benefit that replaces part of your income when you retire. So when you retire, you stop making money and earning an income. And so then how are you going to survive? Well, Canada has established the Canada Pension Plan, which means we're all contributing to that as we work. And so that we get some money when we retire in order to make sure that we are surviving. And so we're taking care of our older population by doing that. So you have to be 65 years or older to receive your Canada Pension Plan. And if you currently reside in Canada, you must have lived here for at least 10 years since turning 18. So you can't just like show up and be like, hey, I'm 65 and I've lived here for a month, so let's get CPP. No, you have to have been contributing and living in Canada for a chunk of time. In 2021, CPP contributions were 5.45% of your employees' gross earnings. So again, the gross, so you take a percentage of your gross amount of money that you earn and then you subtract it, deduct it every pay, again, to a set maximum of $2,898. So that's as much as we pay at the end of the year. We've only paid that much. We don't pay more. And again, the employer matches it. The employer pays the same amount that you pay into this pot of money. And then the third one is income tax. So income tax is a type of tax that governments impose on income generated by businesses and individuals within a jurisdiction. That is the definition. So income tax is used to fund public services, pay for government obligations, and provide goods for citizens. So income tax, when people are complaining about taxes going up, they're generally talking about income tax. But your income tax is what pays for schools, pays for your teachers. It means that you don't have to go for private funding or private schools where you have to pay actually to let your students go to school. It pays for fire departments, it pays for police services, it pays for medical. All these sorts of things are care of our roads. All of these things are part of income tax, as well as other taxes as well. But income tax is part of that takes care of all of those things so that we don't have to pay out of pocket. We don't have to pay that individually, and it supports our community together. So it's based on a tax bracket. So it's not the same depending on how much you make. So you show, depending on each portion of your income, the tax, you pay a certain tax rate. It's a little confusing, but we'll look at that a little bit more today in another lesson next week. All right, so example 1. Mary earns $36,500 annually on average and is paid weekly. Calculate her annual net pay. So let's just get a pen. So in order to calculate your annual net pay, you need some information. You can't just be like, okay, I'm going to take away $500 and that's my net pay. No, it's a little bit trickier. So most folks don't actually calculate your net pay. I generally don't. Because it's not an easy to be like, oh, your net pay is always 75% of your gross pay or 30%. No, it's a little bit complicated, but we have the tools to figure it out, just to get you an understanding of how it works. So first we're going to look at EI. So we're going to we need to figure out the deductions. In order to figure your net pay, you need to figure out what your deductions are. So EI, remember, is 1.8% of your gross pay, up to $889.54. So how we figure this out is we do, okay, so 36,500, and then we're going to times that by 0.0158, right? Because that's 1.58%. And that equals, we're going to use our Desmos calculator, 36500 times 0.0158. So that equals $576.70. 576.70. $76.70. Okay, so then we look and we compare. Is this more than $889.54? Nope, it's left, so that's less. So that means that that's how much will be deducted over the course of the year, $576.70. It isn't all deducted at once. It's deducted a little bit from every pay, but we're just doing it overall, not individual. Okay, so then next, CPP, Canada Pension Plan. How much is that deducted? So it's 5.45% up to $2,898. So again, we take our gross pay, which is 36,500, and we're going to multiply it by 0.0545, because that's 5.45%. And that equals, back to our calculator, 36500 times 0.0545 equals, oh, so look, I'm like $19,000, that is way more than I was expecting. So I look at that and I see that doesn't make any sense to me. So I need to check to see if I've made a calculator error. Did I do it wrong on my calculator? Which I did. I look back and I say, oh, I did 0.545. So that's 54%, which is not what I meant at all. So it's really important to use your critical judgment, to use your brain and say, wait, $19,000 makes no sense. That is way too much. That is a lot more than $2,000, which is my maximum. So I must have made a mistake, and check your work. So you can't trust your calculator. The calculator it's your friend, but it's not always your friend. So I got to make sure that I get that zero in there. Okay, so now I look and I say, yes, okay, I got it right this time. And now I see, okay, so I have $1,989.25. So it's just a factor of 10 so the numbers are the same, but the decimal place is different. And that's a really big difference. So 1989.25. I'm just saying it like that so I can write down. So I remember 1989.25. So then we look, is $1,989.25 less than our maximum? Yes, it is. So that's how much we're going to pay. Okay, so now we need to do the income tax. Income tax is tricky because are those tax brackets. So this we're going to go into a little bit more at for in future next class, but here is a little bit of an intro to how this works to understand your net pay. So for income tax on your first 15%, no, on the first $50,197, you pay 15%. That is how much tax you pay. If you pay more, if you earn more than that, you pay different rates. Mary earns $36,500 a year. So that means that is under $50,197. So that means that she is earning, it's only 15%. We only have to calculate that. We only do 15% of her annual. This isn't, you don't actually have to calculate this, I think, in this lesson. This happens in our next lesson, I think, in lesson 4. But it's really hard to understand gross and net pay without actually calculating your income tax. So I decided to put it in here, and then we'll talk about it again next lesson. So for income tax, for 36,500, we times it by 0.15 because that's 15%. And we're going to go to our calculator. 36500 times 0.15 equals $5,475. I think in your IL booklet, they just give you all the deductions and you just have to subtract. You don't do any of these calculations, but I thought it was important to understand where those numbers actually come from. So now, do we need to calculate any more income tax? No, because Mary only earns $36,500. So she doesn't earn her tax. She only falls in the first tax bracket. She doesn't have any income that is more than that. So we're done for that. So then we figure out, oh, so that is the amount. Not bad. So that is how much income tax she pays over the year is $55,475 and no cents. So then that in terms of income tax totally deducted, well, we only have the one amount, so we don't need to add them up. So then the net income, we're going to do our gross income, 36,500, take away $576.70, take away $1,989.25, take away $5,475 and no cents. And that equals, let's use a calculator. So 36,500 take away $576.70. Take away $1,989.25. Take away $5,475 equals $28,459.05. 28,409.05. Sorry, my screen is annoying me. $28,459.05. And that is Mary's net income or take-home pay. That's how much money she actually takes home over the course of the year. She gets paid $36,500, but then all of these deductions come off over the course of the year, and she only actually takes home $28,459.05. So it's really important to understand the difference between your gross pay and your net pay, because one is how much you're getting paid and one is how much you're actually taking home. Okay, so let's look at another example where we have a large income, because let's see how that makes it different. So Reggie earns $150,000 a year as a professional hockey player. Calculate his yearly net income. So again, we're still going to use, we have the same framework, the same information, but we just have a different income. So EI, we do our gross income, Reggie's gross income. So 150,000, make sure we have enough zeros, times 1.58%. So 0.0158 equals, got our calculator out, clear it, 150,000 times 0.0158, and that gives us $2,370. $2,370. But does Reggie actually pay that much in TEI? No, because remember, it's a maximum of $889.54. So even though Reggie makes more money, and so he only pays $889.54. So even though we did a calculation and we got a bigger value, that bigger value tells us that we pay the maximum, that we don't pay this whole amount, we just pay the maximum. All right, then CPP. So same for Canada Pension Plan, 150,000 times 0.0545. So let's calculate that. 150,000 times 0.0545. This time I got the zero in. So that's 8,175. 8,175. So then that is greater than our maximum, our CPP maximum. So that means that Reggie only pays $2,898. Even though the percentage is higher, that just tells us that Reggie would hit a maximum of this. He would have paid this amount and then he would stop paying into CPP. And then income tax. So income tax for Reggie, this is one that gets a little bit complicated. So this is a little bit tricky. Follow along, and then we're going to talk about it more next week. But so for Reggie, he earns $150,000 a year. So for the first 50,197, he pays 15%. So that means that to calculate his income tax, we do $50,197 times 0.15. Even though Reggie earned more than that, that part of it, he pays 15% on. So we need to break up Reggie's income. So $50,197 times 0.15 for 15% equals $7,529.55. 75, 29, 55. 75, 29, 55. Okay, so that for the first chunk of his income, he pays that much money. So now we need to figure out how much money is left over. So we do, because he's already paid, so he makes $150,000 a year, and he's paid tax now on $50,197. So he's still got $99,803. So I'm just going to write that sort of, I'm just going to make a running list over here. 99,000, and I always already forget what it was. 803. So this is just me tracking. This isn't part of anything we're going to add or subtract. This is just me remembering. So now we look at the next tax bracket. So it says on the income that anyone earns between 50,197 to 100,392, you pay 20.5% of that amount. So does the rest of Reggie's income, does that fit? Try to understand how I do this wrong. So yes, so we still have a chunk of money that is in there. So the amount that, oh, this is confusing, but we're going to talk about it more next week. So this part, so 100, so how we figure out how much of Reggie's income is on this, we're going to take 100,392 and take away 50,197. And that equals 50,195. So 50,195 is the next part of Reggie's income. With 50,195. And that is going to be the times 20.5%. So the first 50,000, so in the year, the first $50,197, he pays 0.15. The next $50,195, he pays 0.205. So we're going to calculate that. This is why most of us don't actually calculate our taxes, and we trust computers and accountants to do it properly for us. But it's good to understand. I have put in zeros in the wrong place, so I'm just going to correct that. So we have 50,195 times 0.205, which is $10,289.98. 10,289.98. 289.98. I say it wrong just so I can remember it. Okay, so that's how much he's going to pay on the next chunk of money. So then we got to figure out how much we've already dealt with. So again, for this part, you don't need to actually calculate this for this lesson. I just want you to see that there are tax brackets. When you're calculating your income, it's a little bit more complicated than many of us would like, which is why most of us don't actually calculate it. Okay, so 49,608. Okay, so then now we still have $49,608 that we haven't paid tax on. So now we need to look, and that falls in the next tax bracket. So the rest of his income falls in this 100,392 to 155,625 bracket. That's where the last bit of his money falls. So that amount, so this amount that we have left over is 49,608 times 0.26 equals, and we're going to do that on our calculator, 49,608 608 times 0.26 is equal to $12,898.08. 12,898.08. Okay, so those are the amount that are the different amounts of tax that he pays depending on how much he's already earned that year. So in total, Reggie's going to pay, we add those amounts together. So 7,529.55 plus 10,289.89 or 98, sorry, plus $12,898.08. So that equals $30,770.61. 3717.61. So then to figure out his net income over the year, we take his gross income, so 150,000, and we take away the EI that he contributed to, so $889.54. And then we take away the CPP, $2,898. And then we take away the total tax that he paid. So he paid a total of $30,717.61. And so depending, if you're making a lot of money, you pay the same amount of EI and CPP, but you end up paying a lot more, you pay more taxes because you earn more money. And so that's the idea, of that we take care of each other, is that if we're earning more money, then we pay more tax, we pay into the pot that contributes, that supports each other. And those who make less money don't pay as much taxes. So then we subtract all of this off on our calculator. And so Reggie's take home is $115,494. $115,494.85. $115,494.85. $115,494.85. And so Reggie's gross is $150,000 a year. That's how much we say he earns, but he actually takes home $115,494.85. Whew, that's tricky. So now you can do the support questions on page 19 to 20, questions 1 to 3. You don't have to calculate your taxes, I don't believe. I think they just give you the values and you just need to subtract. So it is simpler on your in your IL booklet, in your practice, and that's in your key questions, it's simpler. I just wanted to give you an understanding of what's actually happening, where those numbers come from, because I think it's really important to understand the why behind things. If that is confusing, you can ignore that, the tax part, just do the calculations, just do the subtractions, and then next week when we talk more about taxes, that hopefully will help. All right, so now we're going to talk about monthly expenses as well. So we've talked about income, where the money's coming in, and now we have to talk about expenses, where the money goes out. So this is on page 18 of your IL book. So your expenses is the money that you spend. So it includes anything that you buy. We have both planned and unplanned expenses, usually. We have fixed and variable. So fixed are the things that don't change. They are the same every month or every pay period, and they happen at the same time. So you know what to expect. So things like your rent or mortgage, car payments, car insurance, water utilities, cell phone, internet, all the things like that, you know how much you have bought into, and you know, if you have a plan, you know what is going to be fixed every time. Variable is your things that change, that you don't know exactly what it's going to be every month, every week. It's going to change depending on what's going on in life. So food is a variable cost, gas, clothing, entertainment, heat, because depending on if it's the winter or the summer, that's going to change. Your cell phone, if you have a pay-as-you-go plan, or if you go over your minutes or over your data, that also could be a little bit variable, but generally you can have a fixed plan for your cell phone. If you have a cell phone, know that it's always going to be this amount, because that's what my plan says. We also can monthly expenses between essential and non-essential. So essential are the things that you need to survive. So housing, food, transportation would all be essential expenses. Non-essential would be entertainment, new clothing, gym membership, cell phone, computer. Your not essential might be a little bit different depending on who you are. So I focus more on fixed and variable expenses because those are a little bit, you can choose, and it's not as arbitrary, whereas essential and non-essential are a little bit arbitrary. First, one person, cigarettes is going to be an essential cost. If you are a smoker, that is going to be essential to your health, or your mental health, if not your physical health. As you're not a smoker, then that is not going to be an essential expense. So it's really personalized. All right, so let's look at an example of what this actually looks like. So Kelly spent the following in the month of April. Calculate her fixed expenses, her variable expenses, and the total money she spent all month. Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, so I'm going to organize this. So I'm going to have a list of what I think are my fixed expenses and my variable expenses. And then we'll find the total. So fixed is rent is $625. And when it says it's inclusive, that means that includes hydro, water, heat. That's all included in your rent. You don't have those bills on top. So that can be really beneficial for some folks because then it is all included in your rent, and that means that your landlord pays it. If you have a mortgage, then you are the one who's in charge of getting those bills and paying those bills as well. So, but here for this example, Kelly has a fixed $625 for rent. That's inclusive. Groceries are $195, and that's variable. Can't guarantee it's going to be the same every time. Restaurant for $34, that's a variable cost. It's going to change depending on how often you go out to eat. Car payment of $210, that is going to be a fixed cost. You're going to know that your car payment is $210 every month. Car insurance is $115. You're going to know that your car insurance is fixed. It happens every month at $115. Gas, $145. That is variable. Depends on if gas prices go up or down. Depends how much you drive. Cell phone, I'm going to assume, to me, in my mind, cell phone is a fixed cost. I know I have a cell phone plan. I pay the same amount every time. So that's how I think about it. You might think differently. You can just need to justify it. $80 for new running shoes. That is a variable cost. You're probably not going to spend $80 on running shoes every single month. Hopefully, that's a lot of running shoes. $70 on entertainment. That is variable. You might consistently spend $70, but you might sometimes pay $65, or sometimes you might pay $85, or so it's not guaranteed exactly the same. And $53 for mom's birthday present. That's a variable cost. You're not probably buying your mom a birthday present every single month at the same exact time. Okay, so then let's add these up. So to add up your fixed costs, sorry, just trying to move my calculator and it's not being helpful. Okay, so we have fixed is $625 plus $210 plus $115 plus $50 equals $1,000. So Kelly's fixed costs are $1,000. She needs to have $1,000 every month to cover the cost that she knows she definitely has. And then the variable costs, we're going to add them up. So $190 plus $34, plus $145 plus $80 plus $70 plus $53 is equal to $572. So your Kelly's variable costs are $572. So that means her total expenses for the month are the fixed plus the variable. So $1,000 plus $572. So her total expenses are $1,572. There we go. All right, so for monthly expenses, the 4 questions are on page 20 to 21, and they're questions 4 through 6. So now would be a good time to pause and look at your monthly expenses, practice some of those questions. All right, so let's consolidate everything that we have learned today. So we're in lesson 3. This is the gross and net pay lesson. So we learned about gross and net pay. We learned that gross is the total earnings throughout a given period before any deductions are made. So it's the total amount of money that you are earning. Your net pay, your net income, is the take-home pay, the amount employees earn after all payroll deductions are subtracted. So the net home is how much you actually take home after you pay all those deductions and pay into all of those other things. The standard deductions are CPP, Canada Pension Plan, which is income for retired workers. So you're paying into that when you're working so that you can get it out when you're not working, when you're retired. EI, which is employment insurance, which is income for unemployed workers while they look for new jobs. It also includes parental leave. So if you are doing maternity leave, if you have a baby, or if your partner has a baby and you're taking parental leave, which also includes adoption leave, you can apply for EI and get an income while you're taking care of your children in those early important years. So it only lasts, there's a whole bunch of rules in terms of how much you've had to work and how long it lasts. And the same with EI in terms of if you're unemployed, how long you get and how much you have had to work beforehand and how long you get it for. But those are options if you're not working, either because you were laid off or there isn't work, it's seasonal work, or if you're on parental leave, EI is something that you can apply for and get that income because you've already paid into it, you've contributed to it. And then income tax is you pay for services such as healthcare, education, national defense, things like that all come from our income tax. That's why we all pay into it, because it supports our community as a whole. Monthly expenses are, we have our fixed amounts, which we pay the same each week or each month. They're generally paid at the same time, every time, and they give the same amount every time. So that's, you can really count on those happening. Variable expenses are expenses that change in amount and how often you pay them. So you can't necessarily guarantee that it's going to be exactly this or exactly that, or when you're going to have to happen. This also includes your like winter tires. Oh, eventually spring comes and we get to put our spring tires on our summer tires and take off our winter tires. That's going to be a variable expense. You're not going to have it every month, but you are going to have that every once in a while. So you can still plan for your variable expenses. You just sort of ballpark what it's going to be when you're budgeting. All right, so let's see if we have covered our success criteria. So hopefully you can say, I can define gross and net pay. Hopefully you can say, I can explain the most common deductions, so EI, CPP, and income tax, and use those to calculate net pay. It is okay if you don't understand income tax brackets, and that was a bit too confusing. If you can just, if you can calculate your net pay, but because you say, okay, these are your deductions and you're going to subtract these off, and then this is the net pay, your take-home pay, that's okay. We're going to look more into paying taxes next time. So this was just sort of a little bit of an introduction to that concept. So no worries if you totally don't get the tax bracket time section, that it is hard and confusing. I got confused for a moment. And then the third success criteria is that I can identify fixed and variable expenses and calculate monthly expenses overall. So that's incredibly important for budgeting and for knowing how much money you have and what you can afford. Being able to plan for what you know is definitely going to come and what is likely going to come and that you're going to need to pay for is really, really sets you up for success in terms of budgeting and being financially stable.
If you have any questions, give me a call at the office at 807-737-1488 or toll free 1-800-667-3703. Send me an email at bronwyn.slate. That's BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. Connect with me through Facebook at B-Slate Wahsa. And remember, all of our lessons will be up on YouTube at B-Slate Wahsa. It's the name of the channel there. And there's a playlist for MEL3E where all of our course materials will be posted. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me today. Miigwech.